Laziness is not your enemy. What if laziness isn't your flaw, but your inner rebel refusing to waste energy on the wrong battles? Think about it. You sit down to do that important task, and suddenly you're scrolling, snacking, staring at the wall. Not because you're weak, but because some deep part of you knows this isn't it. It's like your body's throwing up a silent protest, a sit-in strike against the meaningless, the misaligned. Schopenhauer said, "A man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." You don't choose what drives you. You feel it. And if you're forcing yourself to care about something your soul's already rejected, no wonder you stall. Here's the twist. That thing you call laziness? It's often a compass. Misread. Yeah, but powerful. Imagine it like a smoke alarm. Loud, annoying, but trying to warn you. Maybe it's not that you can't start. Maybe it's that deep down, you won't. Because the path you're on doesn't match who you are. And if you keep calling that resistance a failure, you're just punishing the part of you that's trying to tell the truth. You've been taught to see your procrastination as a moral weakness. But what if it's actually a flash of unconscious clarity? A pause before betrayal. A rebellion against the fake life you're told to want. So before you label yourself a screw-up, ask a better question. What exactly am I avoiding, and why? Because that answer might just change everything. Now, let's dig deeper. What if the real enemy isn't laziness at all, but obedience? Society rewards motion, not meaning. Why does doing more always feel like winning, even when it's killing you inside? We live in a world that worships motion, hustle, grind, always on, always chasing. But have you ever stopped to ask, chasing what? Society doesn't care why you're moving, only that you are. Emails flying, meetings stacked, your calendar a war zone of busyness. You look productive, so you must be doing something right. Right? But here's the uncomfortable truth. Constant motion isn't a sign of purpose. It's often a symptom of avoidance. You're running, but who's steering? When Carl Jung warned about the collective unconscious, he wasn't just talking dream symbols and shadow work. He meant we're driven by forces we don't even see. And if you never stop long enough to ask, who put you on this treadmill? Guess what? You're not living your life. You're living someone else's agenda. Here's the kicker. Hustle culture isn't neutral. It benefits someone. When you keep grinding without asking why, you're easy to sell to, easy to manage, easy to exploit. You don't have time to reflect. You're too busy trying to stay afloat. And that's exactly how systems stay in power. By keeping you distracted with motion while stripping your sense of meaning. You're praised for burning out, for answering emails at midnight, for sacrificing rest, curiosity, joy. But tell me, when's the last time society rewarded you for sitting still and thinking? Exactly. So maybe it's time to stop, to get quiet enough to hear your own voice again. Because until you do, every step forward might just be taking you further from yourself. Next up, let's talk about what happens when you finally listen to that voice. From ancient Rome to Silicon Valley. Ever notice how the people telling you to grind the hardest often aren't the ones actually breaking their backs? Take ancient Rome, for example. The patricians preached discipline, hard work, and sacrifice to the masses, while lounging in their villas, debating philosophy, or enjoying long dinners. Their message? You need to hustle. You need to sacrifice. Meanwhile, they mastered the art of strategic leisure. Rest was their secret weapon, a way to recharge, plot, and stay ahead. Fast forward to today's Silicon Valley. The CEOs and startup founders preach 24/7 hustle culture, glorifying burnout like it's a badge of honor. But peek behind the scenes, and you'll find a different story. Those at the top know when to pause, when to delegate, when to wait for the right moment to strike. They use narratives of relentless discipline to keep the engine running, but mostly for everyone else. This isn't a new trick. It's power cloaked in virtue. Discipline becomes a tool to control labor, shape behavior, and sell obedience. The same script, different stage. And here's the kicker. You're not just being asked to work hard. You're being asked to buy into a story that benefits someone else more than you. The hustle isn't neutral. It's a mechanism. And until you see it, you're playing the part without a script of your own. So next time you hear that grind anthem, ask yourself, who's really winning here? Up next, we'll dive into Nietzsche's radical take on rebellion disguised as laziness. Nietzsche, laziness is slave rebellion. What if your so-called laziness isn't failure, but resistance? Not weakness, not self-sabotage, but a quiet rebellion against the life you were told to want. Nietzsche would have called this slave morality, when the powerless, unable to fight back directly, reshape their inner world as a kind of counterattack. They flip the script. They say, if I can't dominate, then humility is virtue. If I can't win, then rejecting the game is righteous. And here's where it gets wild. Procrastination might be your modern-day version of that revolt. You keep putting off the work. Not because you're lazy, but because some part of you refuses to play by the rules. The job you hate, the expectations you never agreed to, the grind that leaves you empty, you delay, deflect, distract, and it looks like failure. But under Nietzsche's lens, it's more like quiet revenge. You're not lazy. You're unconsciously saying no to a system that never asked what you actually wanted. And yeah, it's messy. Because you've internalized the rules, right? So when you resist, you feel guilt, shame, like you're broken. But maybe what's really broken is the values themselves. The pressure to produce. The fake virtue of overwork. The lie that your worth comes from constant output. Nietzsche warned us, when you don't create your own values, you inherit someone else's and call your rebellion a sin. So the next time you're stuck in procrastination, don't just ask what's wrong with me. Ask, who benefits if I stay obedient? Coming up, we'll look at how reclaiming your will isn't about working harder, but wanting better. You're not lazy, you're misaligned. That heavy feeling, the constant dragging of your feet, it's not some inner defect. It's your psyche throwing up a red flag. This isn't it. You're not broken, you're just doing things that don't fit. Think about it. When you're doing something that actually matters to you, something that lights you up, you don't need 5 alarms and a guilt trip to get moving. You just go. There's energy, flow, hunger. But when you're chasing goals that aren't yours, that's when the engine stalls. Because deep down, your unconscious is saying, why the hell are we doing this? We've been sold this myth that if you're not productive 24/7, it's because you lack discipline, willpower, character. But what if that's a lie designed to keep you stuck? Carl Jung believed the psyche isn't just passive. It knows things. It resists what doesn't serve your deeper self. So what you call laziness might actually be intuition, dressed in sweatpants, holding a bag of chips. It's like trying to plant a tree in concrete. You can water it all you want, but if the soil's wrong, nothing's growing. So before you shame yourself for not grinding harder, stop and ask, is this even my path? Or did I just inherit it without question? The truth is, you don't need more hustle. You need alignment. Goals that actually make your nervous system say yes. Next, we'll explore how to tell the difference, how to recognize when your resistance is a problem and when it's actually wisdom in disguise. Will to power versus will to please. Ever feel like there are two yous living in your head? One wants to build, break rules, carve your own path. The other just wants to be liked, to follow the script, to keep things safe. That's the tension Nietzsche called the will to power versus the will to please. And it's tearing a lot of people apart. On one side, you've got this raw, electric drive, the part of you that wants to create, lead, challenge, become. That's your will to power. It's not about domination, it's about expansion, becoming more of yourself. But then there's this quieter force, trained into you since childhood. The part that wants approval, that smiles when it's dying inside, that says yes when it means no. That's the will to please. And here's the kicker. It sounds like the voice of reason. It tells you, don't rock the boat, don't disappoint anyone, stay nice, stay safe. But it's not your true voice. It's an echo, a collection of shoulds and expectations from people who never asked what you were here for. So when you procrastinate, when you stall, when you can't get yourself to care, it might not be because you lack ambition. It might be because you're stuck chasing a version of success designed to win applause, not freedom. You're not lazy, you're conflicted. Your will to power is starving. And your will to please, it's eating all your time. The good news? You can break the spell. But first, you've got to learn to tell those voices apart. Next, let's look at how to reclaim that deeper drive and stop living for permission. Strategic inaction, the art of delay. What if procrastination isn't a bug, but a strategy? Not all delay is weakness. Sometimes it's power, a kind of judo move, waiting while the world overextends, then striking with perfect timing. You've been told that not acting right away means you're falling behind. But history tells a different story. Julius Caesar, he crossed the Rubicon after years of biding his time, reading the room, letting his enemies grow sloppy. Da Vinci took years to finish the Mona Lisa because he believed art had to wait for the right moment, not the tight deadline. Even Sun Tzu, in The Art of War, warned against rushing into battle. He said, "He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not will be victorious." Strategic delay is ancient, wise, ruthless when used well. So ask yourself, are you really procrastinating, or are you waiting for clarity? Sometimes the best move is no move. Not out of fear, but because you're watching, learning, gathering energy. The danger isn't the pause. It's not knowing why you're pausing. See, purposeful procrastination means knowing when not to act. It's about timing, restraint, letting the noise die down so you can hear what actually matters. The people who changed history didn't just act fast, they acted right. So maybe next time you find yourself hesitating, don't beat yourself up. Ask, what's the bigger game here? What am I preparing for, even if I can't name it yet? Coming up, we'll dive into how to train that instinct. So your delay becomes discipline, and your timing becomes lethal. Stop fighting yourself. Start listening. What if the part of you that procrastinates isn't the enemy, but the messenger? You keep trying to fight it. Push harder, focus more, shame yourself into action. But what if that resistance is your psyche speaking up, and you've just been yelling over it? Jung called this the shadow. All the parts of yourself you've disowned, buried, labeled bad or wrong. But here's the truth. Your shadow doesn't want to sabotage you. It wants to be heard. When you ignore it, it shows up sideways, as anxiety, as guilt, as delay. That lazy part of you? It might be the only honest voice left in the room. Maybe it's saying, "This isn't your path," or "You're exhausted and pretending you're not," or even, "You're scared." And that's okay, but you won't know until you stop fighting and start listening. Integration isn't about crushing the parts of you that stall or resist. It's about meeting them, asking, "What do you want from me?" and sitting with the answer, even when it's messy or inconvenient. Because here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to dominate yourself, things start to shift. Energy comes back. Clarity returns. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped running from your own truth. So next time you freeze, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask, "What part of me haven't I heard yet?" Up next, we'll explore how to build a dialogue with that inner voice and turn procrastination into partnership. Rituals of force, reclaiming discipline. Let's get one thing straight. This isn't about beating laziness. It's about transforming it, because trying to crush your resistance with brute force, that's just more self-war. And honestly, it doesn't work. What does work is creating rituals, not routines. Rituals, acts of meaning, small but powerful moments that say, "I choose this." I'm not obeying a to-do list, I'm asserting will. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's about direction. It's force with meaning. And when you turn your habits into rituals, everything shifts. Lighting a candle before writing. Walking without your phone to clear your head. Starting the day not with a scroll, but with a sentence. "Here's who I am. Here's what matters today." These are not hacks. They're declarations. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." That's what ritual gives you, a why. It grounds your will in something deeper than obligation, something personal, sovereign, yours. Because here's the secret no one tells you. Discipline without meaning becomes self-betrayal. But discipline with meaning? That's freedom. That's power. That's when the engine turns back on, not because you forced it, but because you aligned it. So no, you don't need to grind harder. You need to ritualize your rebellion. Show up with intention. Create structure that serves you, not the machine. Next, we'll bring it all together. What does it really mean to live from will, not fear? And how do you make that shift last? You were never lazy, just lied to. Here's the truth, they never told you. You were never lazy. You were lied to. Trained to ignore your instincts, told to obey clocks, quotas, deadlines, not your deeper self. So when you resisted, when you froze, when you just couldn't make yourself care, they called it a flaw. But what if it was something else entirely? What if your procrastination was a rebellion, a quiet refusal to live a life that didn't fit? A protest from the part of you that still remembers what freedom feels like. Not weakness, wisdom. Raw, untamed, misunderstood. You weren't broken. You were trying to survive in a system that punishes reflection and rewards obedience. And yeah, you've internalized it. That voice in your head that says you're behind, you're lazy, you'll never get it together, that voice isn't you. It's the echo of a world terrified of people who think for themselves. Because when you stop shaming your procrastination and start listening to it, it points somewhere. It doesn't want destruction. It wants redirection. It wants alignment, will, meaning. Your values, not theirs. You weren't lazy. You were resisting a life that asked you to abandon your soul. So now, what are you going to do with that rebellion? Let it rot into shame? Or shape it into something real? Because here's the wild part. Once you stop fighting who you are, you unlock something deeper than productivity. You find power, purpose, presence, not just motion, but meaning.